today continues here on One News. I'm Diego Castro. President Bongbong Marcos has arrived in Davos, Switzerland for this year's World Economic Forum. The president said there are no scheduled bilateral meetings on the sidelines of the event. He noted, though, that there could be informal talks with other heads of states and business leaders. The president also reiterated his plan to, quote, soft launch the proposed Maharlika Investment Fund. The Philippine delegation includes First Lady Lisa Araneta Marcos, cabinet secretaries, and other officials.
Talk about the Philippines, what the situation is as an investment destination. Now, added to that, meron na tayo pwedeng pag-usapan na sovereign wealth fund. So sa Bico, exactly that we are forming a sovereign wealth fund for investments in the basic areas such as agri, energy, digitalization, climate change.
President Bongbong Marcos has explained the recent leadership shakeup in the security sector. The president said former National Security Advisor Clarita Carlos found the post, quote, a little bit political. She was replaced by former Interior Chief Eduardo Año, who Marcos Jr. said has a long experience in intel.
Secretary Carlos, I think she found that position to be a little bit political. Kasi hindi talaga siya sanay sa ganun. She is an academic, a retired academic. So she decided to help. I think she will be in the research.
Congressional policy and budget research.
Which the speaker is building up.
General Andres Centino has also been reappointed as Armed Forces Chief of Staff, replacing Bartolome Bacaro. The president said this is a way to fix a seniority issue and boost the morale of the country's military organization.
Andres Centino has 4 stars and Bob Bacaro had 3 stars. So kailangan natin ayusin kasi magkakagulo dun sa baba. So there were some comments that were made sa paano yan, pag nag-extend kami naman dito sa lower ranks, hindi wala na kaming pag-asa.
Meanwhile, President Marcos Jr. denied ignoring calls for him to talk with Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky. He explained that they responded, but the two parties were not able to get the phone call scheduled.
We have no problem with talking to President Zelensky, especially now that mainit na ang gera sa kanila. So, of course, we are on the side of peace, and that remains the same. But any expressions of support that he might feel is needed, we are happy to provide it.
We will be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. You're still watching One News Now. I'm Diego Castro. The nationwide COVID-19 positivity rate declined to 4% on Sunday, January 15. That's according to Okta Research. The latest figure is lower than the 4.1% logged in the previous day, citing data from the Health Department. Okta Research says the country recorded 279 new cases on the same day, 96 of which were detected in Metro Manila. The latest tally brings the total active cases to 12,143 nationwide. Okta Research says it is projecting 150 to 250 new cases to be recorded today, January 16. To talk more about that report, we have on the show Professor of the Okta Research Group, Professor Guido David. Prof, welcome back and good morning.
Yes, good morning, Diego, and good morning to all our viewers and listeners.
Yes, last week, Prof, I think we talked about declining number in the positivity rate of COVID-19, and this Sunday we saw again another decline in the positivity rate. Is it improving our COVID situation, or because less people are getting tested?
Well, the decline in positivity rate and the declining hospitalization is an indicator that it's improving. So this is actually good news for us. Right now, the positivity rate for Metro Manila is also down to 4%. But there are still some provinces which are still seeing upticks in the positivity rate. Last time, I think I mentioned Isabela, and it's still continuing to have relatively high numbers of cases in Isabela and a few other provinces.
You mentioned, Prof, that next month there will be a spike in cases of COVID-19. Is it because of these large gatherings that have been happening, like the Traslacion, Sinulog in Cebu? And do you see the uptick to continue for the first quarter of this year, considering there are scheduled fiestas?
Well, it's not necessarily due to these gatherings. Of course, any gathering could be a possible super spreader event, but it's difficult to pinpoint if specific gatherings are causing an increase in cases, and we're not 100% sure that there will be an increase in or uptick next month, but there's a distinct possibility because we're observing the XBB 1.5 subvariant that's beginning to spread in the US, and this is more transmissible, and there's a decent chance that this XBB 1.5 will also cause a wave in the country. Now, last year we had 4 waves in Metro Manila, so we expect that there will be more further waves of infection with new subvariants, and especially since our immunity has already been waning. Our wall of immunity strengthened last year because of these new infections, but after some time there will be waning immunity. Most people probably haven't had their vaccines or boosters in quite some time, so this will also cause a decline in immunity.
Prof, for this month at least, will we see a continuous decline in the number of those infected? And also for the next few weeks, will this hold true?
Well, it's difficult to say right now, Diego, because we don't know when the new subvariants might come in the country. But we're hoping, of course, that we'll continue to have good numbers this month. It's difficult to say how long. Last January, after the original Omicron surge, we had several months, I think about 4 or 5 months of good low numbers of cases. And that was from February until May of last year. And then June, we started to have a wave. But in the second half, we actually had 3 waves. And because there were a lot of new subvariants coming out. Now there are still a lot of new subvariants coming out. From China, we still have the BF7, and there's some other subvariants like the mentioned XBB 1.5. So I would tend to think that the outlook will be similar to the second half of last year rather than the first half, wherein we had a long period of low cases. So I think there will be ups and downs, but it will not be a lot of cases. It will just be maybe 1,000 or even up to 2,000 cases with our low testing right now, unless the Department of Health changes its policies and start counting antigen test results, which I hope they would, like other countries do.
Yeah, Prof, in China, cases are still surging. Should this now prompt our government to enforce stricter rules for inbound Chinese travelers?
Well, we actually suggested that the government could require testing before departure. But we haven't seen any policy changes, and I think by this time the surge is already subsiding in the urban areas in China, and it's now moved to the rural areas. So imposing restrictions now will probably not have any significant impact on arrivals of passengers in terms of cases. The positivity rate for Chinese travelers would probably be much lower now. Before, we estimated to be about 20 to 25% positivity rate for inbound passengers. So, it's probably too late at this time to impose restrictions. We'll just have to hope for the best and hope that there's no new sub-variants or variants coming from China.
Thank you again, Professor Guido David from the Octa Research Group, for joining us.
Thank you, Diego. Again, good morning to everyone.
And those are the top stories of the hour. Join us again at 9:45 a.m. as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. You can also catch One News on Signal Play. Register an account now at signalplay.com.ph so you can stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Diego Castro. We are One News, all sides, all the time.